Kenka Dogaku, or Viral Hit, is an anime about martial arts and YouTubing. Two things I am terrible at. I'm not gonna say I'm an expert in martial arts, but since the Scenic guys are probably not going to make a video about Viral Hit, I might as well make it. Personally, every time I see a fight in media, it's rarely accurate in how real fights would go down, especially in anime. The point of a fight in media isn't to be accurate, but it's simply to entertain you. That being said though, Kenka Dogaku translates to how to fight, so they are sort of asking for this type of breakdown. The first move Shimura learns in this god-awful looking anime is how to block a punch. Not with his hands like a boxer, or not even hand fighting like an MMA guy, but using his forehead. I can tell you by the little experience that I have in fighting, that blocking punches with your head is a terrible idea. The problem is one, you're taking damage. This anime suggests to meet punch halfway, but you're still getting damage. This can lead your head looking like Joanna Jędrzejczyk's head in the Wei Li fight. And the more grimmer aspect to this is that the reason why some boxers die is because of brain damage. Not necessarily from the punches they take straight up, but from the inside of your brain bouncing back and forth with the inside of your skull. Sure, the punch blocked halfway might stop the punch from hurting you and even have a small chance to hurt the puncher, but your brain is going to bounce around in your skull like a super ball. Now that being said, is there some truth to this? Is there a viable reason for this technique to even exist, to even implement in real life? Well, actually yes. Here's a quote from Justin Gaethje, who is a former interim UFC champion back in his Strikeforce days.
Get in an elevator, I see you. I say, you know, Justin, you sure block a lot of punches with your face. You then scold me and correct me and say I block them with my forehead.
There's a big difference. Well, there's a chin. That's the button to go to sleep, and this is, the brow bone. That thing's hardest bone in your body. It's better to take it on there, and I'm going forward when I take them on the forehead. Force with force.
A lot of people say I'm reckless and I'm taking too many shots. I take shots on the forehead. There's nothing wrong with that. It puts me in punching range. If you're taking a punch to the forehead, you should punch back right away because you're in punching range. That's the sole reason why you even would consider taking a punch to the forehead. But Shimura, I guess he just takes it like a champ, I guess. The second technique we learn from the show is a leg kick. Not just any normal leg kick, but a calf kick. See, a normal leg kick would land somewhere in your thigh. Usually leg kicks can lead to your thigh swelling up and lead to your opponent being less agile. But a calf kick is a bit different.
Like I said about the calf, you can't take many because there's nowhere for the swelling to go. So that's why it's so painful and debilitating. Your nerves and your foot kind of stop working with you. It's bad stuff.
Yeah, there's no meat there either. I was explaining to someone, I'm like, just karate chop your arm right here where the bone is.
Yeah.
It hurts just to do that. Now imagine someone kicking that. And that's what it's like when you get kicked in the calf. There's nothing there.
You are going bone to bone, which is more effective, but at the same time, way more risky. I'm not going to show the footage, but Anderson Silva and Chris Weidman did a calf kick that was checked, and their legs literally explode. So do the calf kick at your own risk, but it is a very, very effective move. Shimura's third opponent is a Taekwondo black belt. Taekwondo is a bit of a funny sport, because in one way it's a very effective martial art when implemented in very specific scenarios, but it is very limited in others, for example, in close range. Though the anime claims that Ryo got hands like that, Taekwondo practitioners, from my personal experience, don't really got hands like that.
When I was around 21, before I tried out for the nationals and I was going to try to make the Olympic team, that's when I was starting to box and kickbox, and I was losing faith in Taekwondo. I was realizing that I had a distorted perception of what I could do. I would go to these kickboxing gyms, and when I would when I kickbox guys, I could kick them so hard they couldn't get close enough to box me a lot of the time. But when I was boxing with dudes, I was getting lit up. The problem is it's incomplete if someone knows how to box. Like when someone closes the distance on you, you don't know what you do with your hands. You don't know how to protect yourself. You don't know where the punches are coming from. You're not used to it. And you have to get used to it. And the only way to get used to it is to learn how to actually box.
The main reason I see why Taekwondo is belittled as a martial art is because Taekwondo is sometimes seen as a children's martial art, to the point where Viral Hit sort of tackles on it, where you see kids doing homework at a dojo, which, to be honest, is a very, very real scenario that happens. But what Taekwondo excels at, better than any other martial art in my opinion, is the kicking and distance control. This was accurately portrayed in Viral Hit when Ryo and Shimura was fighting. Now, realistically speaking, when Ryo just puts out his leg like that, Shimura should just grabbed it and either hit him with the cleanest overhand known to mankind, or just grabbed it and just single leg that dude to the ground. But of course, that's not what happened because, well, A, we're looking for entertainment, and B, it wasn't in the Chicken Man's video. But instead what happened is Shimura constantly was looking for a tackle, which is a Pokemon move, but let's just call it a double leg takedown for my sanity. The technique of Shimura doing a double leg takedown is actually perfect, but the problem with the execution is wrestlers tend to be very, very jacked. To wrestle, you need a very strong upper body strength, and even more if you're trying to do a double leg takedown. When the double legs don't work, Shimura just jumps up the bathroom stall and hits him with a Rough Rider, which is a WWE move. Then Shimura transitions to a baseball choke. A baseball choke is a very, very real submission in BJJ, but it isn't really a high percentage move. It's not really effective, and you would usually use a baseball choke to set up a higher effective move later on. In fact, a baseball choke, in my opinion, is way more effective when you're doing it from the top instead of how Shimura does it, which is like sort of from the bottom. The one Shimura implemented is sort of like a Hail Mary choke to just throw up and hoping that your opponent might tap. That Hail Mary choke is usually executed from the bottom. But in the case of the anime, Shimura sort of lands in full mount, which I don't know if he actually lands in full mount. The anime sort of just sucks in animating. But Shimura eventually drags the dude's jacket, gets choked out with a baseball choke, which makes you wonder, why doesn't he just do the top variation of the move, when it's probably easier to do where he was and arguably a more effective move. But besides that, Shimura's execution of that variation of the baseball choke is perfect. The last fighter Shimura fights in the anime is a Caesarean fighter. Even Google doesn't know what a Caesarean fighter is. Now, like 99% of people who watch the show, I don't know what that martial art is. But after looking at a half a video of a Caesarean match, I boiled it down to just like sumo wrestling but with a belt. The more interesting discussion here to be had, I think, isn't what the hell is Caesarean? In reality, nobody really cares, even less than Taekwondo somehow. But the more interesting question is that spinning back kick that Shimura did. Shimura going backwards constantly in the fight, like literally running backwards. You might wonder, is this an actual martial art technique? No. In fact, I refuse to believe that it's a martial art technique for the sake of my own sanity. But the spinning back kick, it is a very real technique that Taekwondo practitioners do. Now, is it the best surefire knockout move that the show claims it to be? I don't think so. I urge you to look up some more fancy kicks in Taekwondo, like the 720 kick. Like, those are some genuinely impressive Taekwondo kicks. Even if you're looking for a move that is more applicable in the streets, the spinning heel kick or a switch kick is probably more effective and even a safer bet. The thing that the anime missed to point out, when you do a spinning back kick, you have to do it quickly. The reason why people is hesitant to use a spinning type kick is because if you don't do the spinning part quickly, you are exposing your back to the opponent. Now, for some reason though, the anime just focuses on running backwards because that's the funny ha-has, I guess. Now, the show is overall, I think, a 7 out of 10. The plot is mediocre, but is carried heavily by the lovable characters and these absurd manga faces that occasionally the characters have. And of course, if you want to learn how to fight, don't learn it from this show. But honestly, it has some interesting techniques that it wants to teach though.